We're going to be looking at problem 1 from your assignment. So if you're having trouble with number 1, I'm going over this one for you. We're going to go ahead and use our PEMDAS to simplify this expression. So I start with my parentheses. So I'm trying to make this big brackets here smaller, and I'm going to do the parentheses that's within that brackets first. So within that parentheses, we have 6 squared, which is 6 times 6, or 36. And we also have 2 squared, which means 2 times 2, or 4. So I just simplified those exponents that were in that parentheses. Now I'm going to continue within this parentheses. When you multiply and divide, you do it from left to right. So first we would do 36 divided by 3, which is 12. And then 12 times 4 is 48. So 36 divided by 3 is 12, and 12 times 4 is 48. So all that becomes a 48. Now we're going to continue within these brackets. Remember, in PEMDAS, you want to multiply before you subtract. So we need to do 2 times 48 first. That gives us 96. So now here we can do 20 minus 96, which gives us negative 76. So the problem becomes 12 minus negative 76. And remember, anytime you're subtracting a negative, that's the same as adding. So it changes to addition. So our problem is 12 plus 76, and the final answer would be 88. We're going to look at number 4 because several students had asked about that one. So on number 4, again, we're using PEMDAS. So since we're using PEMDAS, I'm going to start with my brackets or parentheses, and we're going to make what's in here smaller. So in PEMDAS, you want to multiply before you add. So first we're going to do 5 times negative 3, which is negative 15. I'm going to continue to make my brackets smaller. So now if we combine negative 5 and negative 15, that becomes negative 20. Again, you can use a calculator for little steps if you need to. Here, since we haven't gone over fractions yet, you can change it to a decimal. So 1/4 is 0.25, and we would multiply that by negative 20. That will give you negative 5. Now I do want to go over this if you leave it as a fraction, just so some of you can see it. So when you're doing 1/4 times negative 20, when you're multiplying by a fraction, you're actually multiplying times the top number, dividing the bottom. So really you're doing 1 times negative 20 and then dividing 4. So this becomes negative 20 divided by 4, or negative 5. So you get the same answer as if you had changed it to a decimal. Now we're going to look at some of the problems where you actually have to plug in for the letters. So I'm going to do 2 of these with you, and then the rest you'll be able to do on your own during class time. So let's look at question number 7. We're going to look at one with a fraction and one without. So question number 7. Here on the top, they're telling us to plug in D. D is 3. And then B is negative 8. Minus C is negative 2. And on the denominator, we're plugging in 3/4 for A, and then negative 2 for C. So I'm going to start to simplify. I'm going to start with my numerator. So in the numerator, since we have minus a negative, that really changes to plus. So remember, minus negative changes to plus. And negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. So that becomes 3 times negative 6. On the denominator, we have 3/4 times negative 2. 3/4 is the same as 0.75, And if you multiply that by negative 2, you get negative 1.5. So now if I continue, 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. And if we divide that by negative 1.5, you can use a calculator. That comes out to positive 12. We're going to look at one more of these. So let's look at question number 8. Question number 8 starts with A. So A is 3/4. Then C is negative 2. B is negative 8. D is 3. And G is 1/3. I'm getting those numbers from the top. So now I'm going to use my PEMDAS to simplify this. When you're doing PEMDAS, you want to start with your parentheses, but all these parentheses are all small. They all have only one number in them. So we're going to move on to exponents. So negative 2 to the 3rd power means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. If you do negative 2 times negative 2, you get 4. And 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. So negative 2 cubed is negative 8. 3/4, if you change it to a decimal, it's 0.75. Then we have minus. Here, negative 8 squared is another exponent. That means we're doing negative 8 times negative 8, which is 64. And then we have 3. 1/3, I'm not going to change it to a decimal because it's 0.3333 and it keeps going. Since it's not a perfect decimal, I'm going to leave it 1/3 for now. So now we can do 0.75 times negative 8. Again, you can use a calculator if you need to for little steps. So that comes out to negative 6 minus, and here we're going to do 64 times 3 times 1/3. So if I start with 64 times 3, that comes out to 192, and then 192 times 1/3 is the same as just dividing by 3. So anytime you have like 1/3, that means you're dividing 3. 1/2, you're dividing 2, and so on. So here, 192 times 1/3 is really 192 divided by 3, and that comes out to 64. So 64 times 3 times 1/3 is 64. And now if we do negative 6 minus 64, our answer comes out to negative 70.